Welcome to First Builders, the podcast for those who shape companies from the ground up. I'm Amber Illig, founder and general partner at the Council Capital, where we invest in early teams solving critical problems in essential industries.
And I'm Rachel Tsui, partner at the Council. Every week, we talk with founders who are building in complex and often overlooked spaces and doing the hard work of making systems actually work for people.
And today's episode is a little different from our usual guests. We're not talking about software or marketplaces or consumer apps. We're talking about metal and why rebuilding how America sources it might be one of the most important infrastructure bets of this decade.
We're joined today by Zane Hengsperger, founder and CEO of Nox Metals, an AI-powered metal supplier building automated factories to transform raw metal into production-ready materials, faster and cheaper than anything else the industry has seen before.
Zane grew up on the Windsor-Detroit border, and after a stint in PE and big tech, he chose to go back to his roots. His father owned a machine shop, and he wanted to take on one of the most analog, entrenched supply chains in American industry.
Now, Nox Metals is a portfolio company of the Council Capital's Fund 2 and also a YC company. They've raised $4.6 million in funding to date, and they're operating out of a factory in Detroit, and they're on a mission to power the next industrial era by becoming the fastest, most advanced supplier to America's industrial base.
Zane, we're super excited to have you here. Welcome to First Builders.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here as well.
Yeah.
Yes, super excited to see also the background with you, like in the factory as well. And I'm sure, for people who are actually watching, you should definitely sign on to YouTube so you can actually see it. But let's dive in. Let's start with your origin story. So you grew up in Windsor, Ontario, right across the river from Detroit, and your dad owned a machine shop, and you graduated from Michigan. So most people in your position probably would have gone straight into like tech or finance. Why did you go the other direction?
Yeah, well, the truth is I kind of did do that. I did 3 months at Uber straight after college. And I decided to quit to actually stay in tech, like more a software business. The reason I wanted to go back into manufacturing was mainly due to like reading like Alex Karp's, like The Technological Republic. Like I strongly believe that like, okay, is the rest of my life going to be spent in ad tech, like pushing like gambling apps to like 19-year-old men, or should I like go work on something that promotes like national security and like jobs, like real jobs, like fulfilling jobs to Americans in the West? So yeah, that's like really how I got steered in that direction. I think like the Reindustrialize conference and movement was big for me. I think seeing guys like Hadrian build those types of companies, showing what's possible, even some of the older ones like Proto Labs as well, is a really cool intersection of like technology and manufacturing.
Yep. Yeah. And just kind of building on that, you've talked a lot about wanting to blend sort of the West Coast futurism with gritty Detroit industrialism. And that's a super specific vision. And as you mentioned, like there's more and more energy behind it, and from a macro perspective. But when did you first kind of see that as an opportunity rather than just a place that you were from?
You're saying more so Detroit?
Yeah, like just the region in general and the industry.
Yeah, well, I grew up here and like my dad actually had me as like a delivery driver in high school. So I had to go to all these shops. And then like, as we were kind of looking at getting back into manufacturing, I was visiting a lot of shops, sometimes doing diligence. And what I realized was like how dense the industrial base here, there was billboards from like SpaceX trying to hire like Detroit manufacturers. Like, the more people I talked to in this space, and I was really big on factory tours for a bit, it's just like, whoa, the industrial base still exists in Detroit. It just shifted from like automotive to like defense and industrial, or defense and aerospace heavily. So yeah, and I think like it's not just Detroit, it's places like Alabama, Kentucky, South Carolina, a lot of these other states that people really don't think about that like really need to be paid attention to when it comes to industrialization in America.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge topic, I feel like right now, especially, and it's gotten really popular as well. It's really interesting too, because if you think about like the thesis for Nox, right? Like your whole idea is to really reinvent how metal gets processed and delivered. What gave you that conviction to believe that that was possible?
Yeah, I guess not to be too corny, but I do think anything's possible. And I was someone who like bought metal all the time, like had to wait for it. And what gave me strong conviction is like, okay, you have guys like Xometry and Proto Labs or even SendCut Send. You can do like the instant quote, automated quote. You can like see the whole visibility throughout the life cycle. And it's like, well, when it comes to like blanks and like metal supply, like why doesn't that exist yet? Like why isn't there like a whole full stack supplier? Yeah, just like seeing what people did in like the CNC market more, I guess, downstream from Nox is like, I was like, well, this like really needs to exist for like metals and like, for other folks wanting to look to build in this space too. Like it can exist in the entirety of the supply chain. It's like, it's just which one do you want to tackle? And they're all huge problems.
Yeah. And for our guests who might not know what CNC is, can you define that actually?
Yeah, it's like machining a part. So like you put like a blank of aluminum or any metal in like a machine, and it'll basically drill it till it like makes a part that might be used in like an aircraft, a refrigerator, a car, you name it.
Yeah. And just to even like drill down into that a little bit farther for our audience, if we step back, like what does the metal supply chain even look like from like, getting a raw material to like refining, processing, getting it into the shape that it needs to be in, and then what
Yeah.
happens from there? What are some of those steps? And where are
Yeah,
you
this is a
playing in it?
yeah, this is like a cool question. I'd say 90% of people, maybe higher than that, like don't understand that. Or just have like never even thought about it. So you have like mining, and then you go to like a mill, then you actually might go to like a finishing mill as well. Then you'll go to like a Nox Metals or like a metal service center. From a metal service center or Nox, you'll go to like a like tier 1, 2, or 3 supplier. So that might be the person machining the part. And then you'll go to like an OEM or like final assembly, right? So yeah, that's really like maybe the more simple way to put it in there. You might have fabricators, welders, you might have powder coaters, you might have like material testers. So like it's probably more like a 20-step thing, but not everything touches all 20 steps. So that's like the easiest, most broadest way to look at it.
Yeah. And to somebody learning about metals for the first time, it seems like a super niche problem. But if you think about it, like metal is in everything, like everywhere,
Yeah.
from like tiny little things like my Aura ring all the way to like a Boeing aircraft. So
Yeah.
I was, when we were digging into the deal with Knox, I was like, blown away at how massive the industry is. Obviously, it makes sense when you think about it, but it's just in front of us all the time to the point where we take it for granted.
Yeah. I always like when people start, like we've been hiring like some like operators, and like we grabbed a guy from carpentry. So he didn't know much about metals. He actually ends up being like a really good operator because of like tolerances and squareness. Like we bring them in, we're like, hey, look around you. Like, I mean, this is kind of like a cop out because like we're in a factory already, but like go home, like look at all the metal around you. Like that's where it's going. So like for a lot of operators, like we like bringing them to the customer. We like bringing them, hey, when we're out for like a lunch maybe or something, it's like, hey, look at all the metal around you. And like when you really start to piece everything together, you're like, whoa, everything is metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And you talked about like the people on your team. I think now, what do you have? 11 people or maybe more?
Yeah, we're 13 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
So, obviously like the team has been growing a lot like since you just started. What's the biggest thing that you've had to learn really fast that, kind of no classroom or accelerator could really like prepare you for and prepare your team for as well?
Yeah. I think what no accelerator or class can prepare a team for is just like the ability to figure out nuanced stuff. There's always something in manufacturing that like will go wrong, will blow up, will break, and like there's no rule book for most of these things.
Yeah.
So like what I think like I've like had to like there's no choice. The thing I've had to learn to do has been like, guys, this is a problem, or like even someone on the team might say this too. This is a problem. We have no idea how to fix it. Like we always just like go at it in terms of like sheer volume. Like if we do enough things, like if we diagnose enough things, if we think through enough things, if we call people we know, um, we look for a manual in like the depths of the internet, like we will find this out and get this done. But like that's what I've learned. Like you will hit these impossible roadblocks, but if you just like keep banging your head against the wall, as like Jacob, our ops lead, put it today, you will get through the door.
Yeah. Yeah. And just for those, I think you both know this about me, but some of our listeners might not, but I spent the first half of my career in manufacturing of medical devices and then consumer electronics. I was just kind of blown away with like 24/7 operations and manufacturing operations. There's always something going wrong. And it's a very costly problem. Like if the line goes down or a machine goes down, it's like all hands on deck to get that fixed because everything is reliant on that. So how do you kind of like balance? There's almost like this temptation to always be fighting fires. And as a founder of Nox Metals, like how do you balance, supporting the team in getting through those everyday sort of challenges versus like charting the future and trying to step back and like let them know what's happening next?
That's a great question. One, we like hire people and like empower them to solve problems and they will figure them out. The other thing we do is we record everything. So like data is really important to us at Nox, but like even machine data, like why did this go wrong? Was there an indication it was going to go wrong earlier? Hey, let's mark down every single problem we've had with a machine or process in our software. Like we have this internal tool called Nox Nest. And if we ever need to reference that problem again and the diagnosis and like the way we fixed it and if it actually worked and for how long it worked for, like we're just basically just going to build a bank over time. So yeah, I think about them both as like people empowerment problem, and then, or maybe solution. And then also just like proprietary data that like your company can use for like at scale. Now, if we hire factory operator number 24, like she's going to know exactly what to do.
Yeah, super cool. And then kind of switching gears, we'll come back to the whole manufacturing aspect and Knox, but for founders listening, I think it's really interesting, Y Combinator is one of the top, if not the top accelerator in the world. Most founders know what it is. And, historically, until recent batches, they've been known for funding like SaaS companies and consumer apps. But I feel like you were one of the earliest batches where they were starting to invest more industrial tech spaces. And so, getting them to back a company that's literally cutting aluminum in a factory is a different kind of bet. So how did you sort of tell that story and what do you think they saw in it?
Yeah, I think it was just like a very unique perspective. And I think what they saw in it was just like, oh, no one's, I don't know. I almost have a hard time like saying this without, I don't want to come across the wrong way, but like, I just think it's like a very
Are
unique
you trying not to
perspective.
brag? Just humble brag, if that's what
Yeah,
this
humble,
is.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
go
was like
for
sharing
it.
the sentence. I was like, am I going to sound like bad? But okay. No, I think it's just like truly unique. Not many people were thinking about the problem. And like, I had like just, even if you want to call it like lucky, like, yeah, my dad had a machine shop. Like, yeah, on the weekends, he brought me there to like launch rockets in the parking lot. And I picked up things every year of my life. Like, I think what they picked up is mostly that the uniqueness of it, the sheer size of the market, and just like, my history around like technology in these spaces.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a
Yeah.
good like lesson for other founders. Like it's okay to be contrarian and be the first one in a category that you see as huge as long as you're aligned and it actually makes business sense.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And like, I think if you're gonna do like something maybe like contrarian or hasn't been tried before, you have to be someone that just will like, because it's kind of like the banging the head against the wall thing is just like, we'll try any, like the sheer volume to just like get it done. And I think that was probably a pretty big factor too.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I know we talked a little bit about like the problem and how things have been just like historically slow, especially like in that part of like the manufacturing process. But for Knox, what you're really doing is that you're treating kind of like the factory itself as the product, and then you're building the software around it to automate pretty much as possible within that process. Can you talk about a little bit about that? Like what has that been like, especially with the technology that we have today? How has that like changed, things that would take days now that could take minutes?
Yeah. Yeah. Like to your first point, I always think like people are buying like cost, speed, and quality, and that's like a product of the factory, and like also a product of our software, which the software is part of the factory. I think what's really interesting in like today's world is that like you can build software products so quickly. So like, for example, we had like a maintenance problem, and like we were like looking for maintenance softwares online. We're like, oh wait, we can actually just build this. And like I spend my Saturday and Sunday building it, like getting it to a really good point, and like the engineers can whip up the back end, make it better. Our floor operator asked me the other day, hey, when do I get like a Claude subscription? And I'm like, oh, you don't have one yet? Like, just go make one and like we'll put you on the company one. And like what he built was like this nesting tool to like help him do like operations out here better. Like, how should I cut the metal and how long might it take? And there's been now like 2 or 3 like Claude artifacts made by employees that were not technical that have now been translated into real functional production products in our Nox Nest, which is so cool.
That's awesome. It's so cool to hear that too, because a lot of companies talk about like really getting everyone AI native, really getting everyone to like build things, especially non-technical folks, and really kind of like integrating that culture. Like you guys are doing that from the ground up. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I think what's like so important there is like you have these people that are like living the problem, and like for the past like there's like a forklift right here. For the past like
Yeah, if
century,
anybody here sounds, we were excited to have Zane in this room particularly so you can see the factory in motion.
yeah, but like for centuries, like these people just had to like communicate this to like engineers, or like I guess in the past like decades, like it was like communicated to like software engineers. But now these people can like live the problem, build exactly what they want to build with like English, and then like yes, the software engineers can like think deeper about like the logic and how to integrate to other tools in the back end. And if there's any sort of like we do a lot of machine learning, okay, if this guy is building a tool that tracks the time of these cuts, like why would we not use that data to like get our scheduling better, to quote better, because now we know our job costing much stronger. Yeah, I just think it's like so unique that this happens. Like I bet you there's not many other factories where like the operators are building artifacts and going to the software engineers.
Yeah,
Yeah, super
definitely
cool.
not.
Yeah. And speaking of living a problem, I would love to kind of dig into your customer persona a little bit and just talk about the problem. I think it's no surprise to anybody listening to this podcast or watching that, historically we've been ordering a ton of stuff from China. And now there's like a huge push, and it's really like everybody's kind of on board in America to get more things produced in America. But historically, it's been more expensive to do that. So we've just kind of relied on China as this, sort of crutch. And that comes with long lead times, but it comes with cheap cost and better customer service sometimes. So could you kind of paint the picture of like the decision that, your potential customers have and why they would consider Nox now?
Yeah, and like I think the most like almost the no pun intended thing you just said is like why they consider Knox now. It's because it's now. Like the fact that like we're on American soil like gives us such an advantage to serve like American customers. So like why customers would pick us is like, okay, we're gonna like have the predictive inventory. We're gonna know what you need before you have it. We're gonna cut it lightning speeds. Like an example there is like we had like a defense company reach out, and from them reaching out to the order being done was like an hour and 12 minutes. And then that's
Oh my gosh.
them
Wow.
making more parts, right? Yeah, that was a really good one.
Yeah.
But like that is like the testament to like where I think America like inherently has an advantage, like here geographies and like shipping stuff overseas. So yeah, that's like truly what we played. I think like the other way like I think America needs to like, work on this, but like can also continue that like this path of like having an advantage is like via technology. Um, I don't think that's something like China has like an inherent advantage on. I think they're like super talented people working on like really insane software, data, and like robotics technology within America. So I would want us to see us like quadruple down there just to get like the cost down of like producing some of these parts.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
definitely.
think a lot of people don't realize that when you do order something from China, like it takes 3 to 4 weeks just to get something like on a ship to the United States. So it's unless you're like hand carrying on an airplane or something, it's very, very difficult to order large quantities of material.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you were talking about like the type of customers that you have, like someone that was on the defense side. I mean, these customers, they're not the typical early adopters of tech, right? Like industrial, aerospace, defense, things like that. How do you kind of sell the use of Knox to these types of buyers that have been doing it the same way for the past 40 years?
Sure. I think we've always just thought about building tools for those people. Like you go to those shops and usually they bring it up before we do because we're already bringing the metal. It's really funny. When we first started the company, I used to do all the deliveries. So I would like drive the truck to do the drop offs. I would like come in at 6, do it, then come to the office. And like, I would try to talk to some of the people buying metal and like, it would usually be like them, like, hey, like, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? And like, I think those people have like objective pain points and like software is cool to them. And like, I think they want to use it. And, I think they're sick of email. I think they're sick of the phone calls, right? And like, I think technology's gotten to a place now where like, you're already using Amazon, you're already using like Walmart checkout. Like, why not do this for metals too? So yeah, I just think about building tools specifically for those people. Like, I think one of our best software products have come directly from a customer. So
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. And then what do most people get wrong about Detroit as a place to build?
oh, as a place to build, the sheer capacity of Detroit, the
Wow.
buildings, the people, the infrastructure, like, there was a LA-based startup, really cool startup, and they needed to get something fabricated and they put a tweet about it. And I like connected them to like one of our customers. I didn't even really follow up on it. I was like, oh, these would be good guys. I got a call from that customer like a week later. He's like, hey, we won that job. Like we're doing it. And maybe that's like a small sample size of one thing, but it's just like people know how to get stuff done in Detroit. The tribal knowledge is here. I think it's important to collect that knowledge, but like, if we need something done, we can get it done in Detroit. Like there's always a guy or a bigger
Yeah.
company too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is the probably not things that people are thinking about, especially like us being in the Bay Area. Like I don't think that like the coastal, cities are really understanding that. How do you think about like you even mentioned this kind of like earlier when you were talking about Victoria, like how do you like kind of take all that like historical like knowledge and how do you pass this on to like the next generation, like from everyone who's been doing it again historically to now?
Yeah, I think it's maybe one of the hardest problems like to solve. It's like, yeah, because like maybe there's 3,000 machine shops in Detroit and like, are you really going to capture all that knowledge? And like,
Yeah.
I think what has to happen is just like new companies that start capturing that knowledge, hiring some of those people, really just passing the torch. But like, that's a simple way to put it. I think you need to be very data heavy, collect that data, use it well. So I think it's like probably a hard problem, but like actually kind of simple when you think about it. Digitizing everything on the factory floor.
Yeah. But then finding the people who are willing to do that, right? Like,
Yep.
people like you, and then you encouraging other, like, especially
Sure.
young folks to do that as well. So,
Yeah, I think, that's something I used to, like, talk about a ton is just, like, hey, you have all these software engineers, and they all wanna go work on software, which is great. There's a lot of great softwares, but, like, some of them are kinda silly. Like, I'm the perfect example of this. I built an ad tech software, and, like, it ended up, like, pushing a lot of gambling ads or, like, discounted weed, and, that's not a good use of time. I think the tides are definitely turning, but, like, yeah, a lot of these people should just go work on something, like, super fulfilling. We hired a guy, an operator that worked at like a cemetery. Like one of our engineers like did work at like just a random software company. Like we're bringing people in, and I think it's like a network effect. Most people we hire are people someone knows from the company. Like
yeah,
one of our ops lead hired their best friends.
That's awesome.
nice.
Yeah. And speaking of inspiring others and bringing others along with you, you wrote an article last week as a kind of a call to action for other companies to be formed within the industrial, realm and some of the most underserved areas of reindustrialization in the US. And so I'll just list some of them off because obviously we can't go into all the detail that Zane put in his article, but you'll find it if you search for him, first thing that comes up. But, he highlighted several things: machine maintenance, modern metal mills, defense factories, freight, industrial lending, fabrication, machine tools, and trade schools. These are all areas that, like, having gone really deep in metals and seeing all the, like, adjacent areas to that, he's seen as like huge areas for others to be building in right now. But I'm curious, I have a couple of questions related to that. Number one, what has been the resounding reaction to it so far? Because obviously you believe there's a lot of like huge opportunities to build big businesses in this space.
Yeah, I just think it was like the reaction was like insane. Just like the people that thought like I think there's some people that were just like I haven't really thought about these, but like now that they're in front of me and like it's getting attention, like oh, I can see how this is like super important. I think a lot of people wanting to start on the ideas. Like I can't answer all the DMs of people being like, "Hey, can I pick your brain on this idea more?" And yeah, it's just been really cool. Like it's like almost like oh, like hope exists. Like it's like, when you see kids playing outside and instead of like on their iPads kind of thing, it's like, okay, wait, no, like we're gonna be all right.
Yeah, that's
I love
awesome.
that. Yeah, and speaking of, all the DMs you're getting, like, obviously, you have a huge following on X with, like, I think over 33,000 followers. What's it been like building in public like this, and how has that affected Knox positively or negatively, as a result?
It's been really fun. Do tweet. I used to tweet more about like ideas and like problems, like almost like the article stuff. And then when I started Nox, I just started tweeting like I don't know, I had less time to tweet, so I just like walk on the floor and be like, "Oh, this is what we're doing today. Like, here's another block of metal." And if you go through my images, there's probably just a ton of blocks of metal. But it's been positive for Nox because it's just like I feel like we got like from a hiring perspective, the customer has been insane
Hmm.
from X. And even just like the general response of like, Knox is on this mission to reindustrialize America. Like, I actually do think one of our strongest things we've done is like inspired other people to reindustrialize America, along with a lot of other folks. Like, it's a whole thing. On some more of the negative side, there hasn't been too much. I think like maybe one or two things of just being like, oh, like AI like isn't the solution to factories, or like I guess maybe just that, like the whole like that idea. But it's been positive, had a lot of fun, and like doing this article again made me kind of think like, oh yeah, maybe someone that's more thought out stuff that I can write on like a Saturday morning, like having coffee is like a cool thing to do.
Yeah. Well, thank you for tweeting because I think I wouldn't have even met you if not for Twitter and you writing things about your experience with manufacturing on there. I just remember it was like popping up in my timeline here and there, and to the point where I started recognizing your name. And then you said you were heading to San Francisco and wanted to grab some coffees with some folks. And I just like swooped right in. So, and that rarely happens. Like most of the deals that we do at the council came through a warm intro. So the fact that you were able to build credibility ahead of that meeting just goes to show what is probably happening for a lot of your customers and investors at this point. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I thank you. And I'm glad you reached out. I'm like so happy to have you guys as investors. And like I think that's happened for you're right, hiring other investors and customers for sure.
it's awesome. Yeah, and then what would you say is the hardest thing about building a hard tech company that software founders just don't have to deal with?
Hardest thing is that you have to move the metal. You
Mhm.
can't sit in your kitchen and code your way out of a problem. You gotta show up, put your work boots on, and move the damn metal. But it's also the most enjoyable thing. I think, we're hiring more operators, but like our ops team, like one guy was here from 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was here pretty late too, but he said they were wrapping up, and I had some meetings early in the morning that I had to get to. That's like a testament to what it is. It's just like, yes, sure, it's late nights, but it's also like sometimes late nights and like you have to like move an 80-pound block of metal. It's like you can't solve this in like
Casual.
2 hours. Yeah, you gotta like sometimes like ship something from like Pennsylvania to fix the
Yeah.
saw, and you just gotta like sit there and wait. But while you're sitting there and waiting, you also are thinking about other solutions. Can someone machine it? Do we really need that part? All this stuff.
Yeah. Totally. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously operating a physical factory, right? Like that is definitely something very different from like other more traditional software founders would have to do. So what does kind of like your typical day look like if you had to describe that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It changes all the time. Typical day for me, I come in the morning. Sometimes there's a truck here early and like I'll just like unload it. That doesn't happen all the time, but like what I really do is like focus on lately it's software. Just like how can we keep building tools for our team and our customers?
Yeah.
So a lot of focus there. I think it's also like talking to as many customers as I can, getting on the phone, sometimes like shooting the shit, but also just like really understanding their business and like what's going to help them move faster, win more jobs, what's going to help them, their customer choose to build a part with them than in like Shenzhen. And that usually comes down to speed and cost and quality. I love going on the floor. I love talking to the guys. I like really want to understand why they're doing something a certain way,
Yeah.
pushing them maybe sometimes to do something better. But like most of the time I'm just learning from these guys, like, why are you doing it that way? Like what like software tools could we build to make that better? Like even robotics tools. And,
Mm.
it's just yeah, and that's like a majority of my day. It's like supporting the team, talking to customers, or like really thinking hard about like technology, and then like, executing on all three of those things.
Yeah.
And then speaking of, sort of building a cap table with people that are aligned, with what you're building is something that you've mentioned multiple times is important to you. Obviously, you've got us in your corner at the council, but what does having investors who believe in essential industries and reindustrialization, not just software alone, mean for how you build, and how does that impact things when you're thinking about bringing people on?
Yeah, so a lot of these like people that understand industry is important because I don't know, there's a lot of fundamentals to the business that aren't like traditional SaaS. Actually, maybe like almost every single thing.
Pretty
Uh,
much everything. Yeah.
but like understanding debt, understanding like how you can pull debt from like AR,
Yeah.
line of credit on equipment, understanding like customers, understanding that like it's not annual recurring revenue, it's not monthly recurring revenue. I think about it more broadly as like if we're aligned on the mission, will I work with these people for like decades? Like
Mhm.
will I work with like Amber and Rachel for the next like 30 years? And like that is what I want to do. When you're aligned on like industry and like you're thinking in decades, like it just makes for a really good relationship and like intros, support, help, all those sorts of things. But the fundamentals of manufacturing too, just like the way it operates, what like some of the financial statements look like, customer acquisition, all those sorts of things. I go on and on.
Oh, that's awesome. And so I want to go back to kind of one thing that you touched on earlier, which is, encouraging more young people to see manufacturing as a really viable path. What's your pitch today to like a fresh grad who's deciding between going to a more traditional, software startup versus going to something like Nox Metals or maybe to more traditional factory?
I think my advice is that like it's an absurd amount of fun and you'll solve the hardest problems of your life. Walking into the factory every day and seeing like what you physically built and like knowing it's like supporting national interests is like like fun, fulfilling, and just like you rally around this team that is just like doing hard things like across like multiple domains that everyone's so excited to work every day. Like we had this carpenter join us. He's a guy that worked till 3 a.m. last night, and he was just like, I don't even think about the time anymore. I just like being here and like get doing the work. And I think it's a testament to all those things. Also, like you'll just like get pushed to your limits in a way, like in a good way. Like you'll get to work on like really hard problems. Most of them haven't been solved yet. Most of them people haven't even experienced yet. And you'll just like your career will grow so far. At least try it. At least walk in the factory, do a tour, do interviews, and like I think seeing it for yourself changes everything.
Totally.
And obviously, you're putting in a ton of hours at Nox just with the nature of it being a physical operation and moving metal and managing a team that's also supporting you in that. So, how do you sort of stay sane? And, like, it's a lot. Like, just being a founder in general is a lot. And then having all the complexity within this industry is also a lot. So, who are you outside of Nox and how do you sort of maintain that? I know it's hard.
Yeah, no, I think like the first thing is just like I know you asked outside of Knox, but like having good people in Knox so you can have an
Yeah.
outside of Knox.
Yeah.
That being said, like if you truly work on something you're like having fun at, it's like you can always stay sane in a way. But like truly outside of Knox, I love spending time with my friends and family. I love going to my friend's house, who I'm standing up in his wedding this summer, and he's like building his house with his fiance, and just like asking him how that's going. I like going for walks. I really do. I like being in nature. I think that long hours are good, and like I've always been someone who's like, okay, I'm just gonna put 100% into this, and like going for a walk is like kind of stupid, but like as the business has like really scaled and like been really demanding, like, having those times is important and will actually like get you further in the business.
Yeah.
So I'm
Totally.
I'm still learning. I'm like a really big amateur at this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it definitely helps to even just get more creative, like with problem solving and stuff. Just like stepping away and stepping back in, even for 30 minutes, makes a huge difference. So I felt that too.
I think
Yeah.
also having founder friends has helped. Like
Mm,
just people that are gone through the same thing. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is like normal. Helps a ton.
yeah. It makes you like just know that what you're going through, like you're not crazy or anything, right? Like it's the
Exactly.
norm.
Or yeah, or like, damn, what they're going through is like way crazier.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes they can say it to me too.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, we're going to transition over into our rapid fire playbook. So we're just going to like ask some questions. You can just say the first thing that comes to mind. So I'll start. What do you think is the most underrated skill for a founder?
A skill for a founder. Asking a zillion questions.
Good
Good.
one.
And what's one tool or habit that you rely on every day?
A tool or habit, like I think tool and habits might be two separate things. Okay,
You
I
can
can
pick
answer like
one.
okay. I mean, right now it's like a very generic one, like Claude code.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
huge.
yeah. Also my tape measure.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So funny. Even in my house, I feel like I have to keep it. It was in like our closet. Now I'm like, no, it needs to be more accessible in like a kitchen drawer because I'm
Yeah.
constantly measuring stuff. So I can't even imagine being in a factory environment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
with
It needs
everything's a tolerance.
readily available for you to grab.
Yeah.
Nice. What's one book, person, or idea that shaped how you think about building in the physical world?
It's a good one. I like Michael Phelps. Just
oh,
prided himself on like super hard work, showing up every single day, and just like every day you show up, like putting in like an
Mm,
insane amount of effort, and then doing that the next day for like 10 years.
yeah. And then what's one belief that you hold strongly and maybe controversially about American manufacturing or the reindustrialization movement?
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's kind of like what my article is about, but just like raw capacity over everything else. Like even if you don't have like, not every company should be like this technology company. Some of them should just be like okay, we're just gonna like put in CNC machines and we're gonna do it the old fashioned way, but like at least we have like 100 of them, and that's still like really good. And like you can almost figure out the technology later.
yeah.
I'm like very big on like raw capacity first.
And then what's one thing that you used to believe about running startups or startups running a factory that has actually changed?
The thing I believe about start funding a factor that I think in our early days we were like move fast, break things, and I think we still do that. But there's a us taking the extra 10 minutes to make like the packaging really nice, and like you know the customer cares for more things than just the metal.
Yeah.
Just goes a really long way. I think like what I've learned maybe is like how you do one thing is how you do everything, and like our customers like appreciate that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about the whole experience, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, I think we know the answer to this question, but where can people follow your work and learn more about Nox Metals?
Sure, yeah. X for sure. Either like myself or like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I think our Instagram is something we're experimenting with a bit more, but
Nice.
yeah, all
Yeah, I've been seeing
platforms.
that.
Yeah,
It's
thanks.
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today and really appreciate you also taking us on the factory floor for those that are watching. It's awesome to see everything going on in the background. So, really appreciate it and it's been awesome having you in the portfolio and great to see and get to, spend more time together and hear more about what's going on.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, one, the factory floor is the best place to be. And two, it's been a pleasure to work with you guys too, and excited to continue to.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Zane.
Thanks.
Rachel, what stood out to you from today's conversation?
Well, first, factories are loud, but very
Yes.
cool to see just all of that like happening in the background, which is like awesome to see. But one thing that Zane really emphasized, I feel like throughout the conversation, was just like the need for raw capacity, especially in this age of American reindustrialization. And then the other thing that he mentioned multiple times was, before building Nox, he was working on, ads for things like either like weed delivery or gambling, and how he just felt that like, using your skills and, software engineering or whatever it is for like a real purpose was just much more fulfilling for him.
Yeah, totally agree. And that really resonated with me. And I'm excited that we invested in Nox. And that was one of the reasons we got excited, was because it's really an essential industry, which fits right into our thesis. And as you mentioned, like there's so many other things you can work on that are like even sometimes net negative, or they're neutral, but they may come and go with trends.
Yeah,
And so it's nice that he's picked, an area where you can make a real difference, and that difference matters whether or not you're in a boom market or a bust market. It's like we still need metal, and we still need
yes,
to build things. We still need to have roofs over our heads, and yeah, forks to eat with, and all the
totally.
basics. And so that really, fits nicely into our mission as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last thing I would mention too is that he talked a lot about just like how important it is to just have more connection and working in the physical world, and really encouraging young people to think about it or at least have that experience at least once.
Yeah. I think that's really important too as a message too, because it's not, one path that isn't right for everyone. Like there's going to be
Yeah.
some people that still choose to go down the software path. There's going to be some that choose to go down like the trades path. And I think having more people like Zane like show what's actually possible on the trades path is really cool, because I think we're going to see trades on the rise as a new, job opportunity for folks that, maybe historically didn't think they could make much doing that, but it's going to be in really high demand going forward. And it already is in some
Yeah.
trades. And so it's hard to find people with sort of the tribal knowledge to get things done, and like the engineering chops, just natural engineering chops to get things done. And so I think it's great for, young people to be thinking about that as a potential career path, especially given it's getting easier and easier to build software with tools like AI. And so you can actually be more differentiated if you know how to build things with your hands.
Absolutely. And it has like a parallel also to me, like especially being on the healthcare side of just like needing more healthcare practitioners,
Yeah,
whether it's clinicians or
huge.
nurses or caregivers, just like in this space, like physical space to actually care for people. I think like very similar. We're just like there's a huge need for that, and similarly in the trades as well.
Yeah, agreed. Well, for those of you listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review, share it with a friend, and subscribe to First Builders wherever you get your podcasts. It means a lot to us, and we're super excited to have you along the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget to subscribe to the council newsletter for more founder stories and frameworks that you can apply to your own company.
And we'll link all of that below. So thanks so much for joining us.
See you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.